Emilia Carter clutched a crumpled hospital bill, her fingertips whitening as she stood outside the exclusive private club, Obsidian. Her phone still held a message from her best friend, Lena. "Emilia, we're hiring waitresses here. One night's worth half a month's salary. Go give it a try." She still needed $8,000 for her mother's surgery, and with bills pouring into her rental apartment, she was practically at her wit's end. Taking a deep breath, she tucked her washed-out denim jacket closer, lowering her head as she walked inside. She didn't notice the glaring VIP box area on the badge handed to her by the front desk. "Box 308, guests are waiting. Hurry." A waiter passed by with a food cart and casually pointed in a direction. Emilia hurriedly replied, picking up her tray and rushing inside. As she pushed the door open, a strong aroma of whiskey mixed with the cool scent of cedar cologne hit her face. The lights in the private room were dim. A man leaned against the sofa, his dark gray suit jacket draped over his arm, his tie hanging loosely around his neck. His brows were deep, his jawline tense. Even with his eyes closed, the oppressive feeling emanating from him made Emilia's heart tighten. She was about to leave when he suddenly opened his eyes, a strange red veil beneath them, as if possessed by something. "Who sent you?" April Thorne's voice was hoarse, and she reached out and grabbed Emilia's wrist. The force was so intense that Emilia almost cried out in pain. The tray clattered to the floor, shattering glasses. I am a waiter. I've come to the wrong place." She struggled to free herself, but April's arms held her tightly like an iron clamp. The unfamiliar warmth and cool breath enveloped her, and Emilia's mind went blank. She could only let the man pin her to the sofa, her consciousness gradually fading. The next morning, Emilia woke in her soft, large bed with a splitting headache. The unfamiliar villa's bedroom was luxuriously decorated, and the bustling city skyline shone through the floor-to-ceiling windows. She was still wearing a loose, oversized man's shirt. Memories of last night flooded back like fragments, her face flushing crimson as she frantically searched for her clothes. Awake, a cold voice called from the doorway. April, dressed in a bathrobe, her hair damp, her eyes as cold as ice. "Tell me, who asked you to come? How much do you want?" Emilia was stunned and hurriedly explained, "I didn't mean to. I went to the wrong room yesterday, and I—" "Stop playing innocent," April interrupted, tossing a wad of cash on the nightstand. "Take the money and disappear. Don't let me see you again." The scornful look pierced Emilia's heart like a needle. She clutched the corner of her clothes, bit her lip, and pushed the money back. "Sir, I don't need your money. I'm sorry about what happened last night. I'm leaving now." With that, she grabbed her clothes and scurried out of the villa in a panic. Back at her rental, the hospital called again, demanding payment. The doctor said her mother's surgery couldn't be delayed any longer. Emilia sat on the cold floor, hugging her knees and crying. The humiliation of the previous night and the pressure of reality were suffocating her. 3 days later, Emilia was working at a restaurant when a man in a black suit suddenly approached her. "Miss Carter, Mr. Thorne would like to see you." "Mr. Thorne?" Emilia panicked, thinking he was going to ask about what happened that night. But thinking about her mother's surgery, she gritted her teeth and followed him to the Thorne Group headquarters. In the CEO's office on the top floor, April sat behind a large desk, tapping his fingertips on the surface, his eyes fixed on her sharply. "Ms. Carter, I need a girlfriend for 1 year." Emilia was stunned. April's slender fingers tapped the table twice. Her voice was even, yet it carried an undeniable force. "Help me at family gatherings and play the role of a good, obedient girlfriend. The reward is $1 million. Pay $500,000 on the day you sign, and the remaining $500,000 by the end of the year. This amount will be enough for your mother's surgery and subsequent recovery, and even allow you to finish college without having to work part-time jobs." $1 million. Emilia's pupils constricted, and she nearly dropped her bag. She had never seen so much money in her life. Her mother's surgery, the rent she owed, the tuition for the next few years. All her problems seemed to be solved by this figure. But behind the huge surprise was an even greater confusion. What had she done to deserve such a sum of money from April Thorne? She stared at April's impassive face, her throat tight. "Why, are you willing to give so much? I'm just an ordinary student. I can't help you much." April looked up, his eyes devoid of warmth but filled with a certainty that defied argument. The Thorn Group doesn't need this little money. I want peace of mind. You're clean and simple, not like other women who try to scheme and cling to me. You fit the bill perfectly." He paused, then added, "During the contract period, I won't do anything to you, nor will I interfere with your life. All you need to do is cooperate when needed. After a year, the money will be yours, and we'll be even and have nothing to do with each other." Emilia clenched her fists, her nails digging into her palms, her fingertips turning white. The $1 million weighed like a huge rock on her heart. On one side was her mother's life and her future security, on the other was this unclear, contractual relationship and her pride. But looking at her mother's pale face in her mind, she finally bit her lower lip and nodded with red eyes. "Okay, I'll sign." April pushed the long-prepared contract in front of her. The figure, $1 million, stood out prominently on the document. Emilia took a deep breath, picked up the pen, and signed her name stroke by stroke. The ink hitting the paper seemed to have drawn a heavy and uncertain line in her life. "Pack your things and move to my villa in Beverly Hills tonight." April put the contract away, her tone calm. "Assistant Davis will take you to complete the paperwork. I've arranged for the best doctor at Cedar Private Hospital for your mother's surgery, and she can be admitted tomorrow." Emilia followed Assistant Davis out of the office and looked out the window at the skyscrapers. Her heart felt empty and heavy. The $1 million reward was like a magnificent cage, trapping her in April's world. She had no idea where this contractual relationship that began with money would lead. What she didn't see was that after she left, April picked up the contract, her eyes falling on the words, "Emilia Carter." Her fingertips paused slightly, and a subtle complexity flashed in her eyes. This $1 million might be more than just buying a girlfriend. It was already dark when Assistant Davis escorted Emilia to April's villa. The white, Mediterranean-style building resembled a castle in the night. Pushing open the door, she discovered a living room large enough to fit her former rental apartment. The crystal chandelier shone dazzlingly, and the marble floor was so clean it reflected a person's reflection. "Ms. Carter, your room is on the east side of the second floor. Mr. Thorne has instructed you to use all the other rooms except the study and his bedroom." Assistant Davis handed her a key. "Martha will take care of the daily meals. If you need anything, just let her know." Emilia stood in the empty living room, clutching her small suitcase, like a deer lost in a maze. Just as she had moved her luggage into her room, she heard the door open downstairs. April had returned. She hurried downstairs and stood awkwardly at the landing. "Mr. Thorne, I'm here." April, changing his shoes, said without looking up. "Yes. Remember the terms of the contract and don't cause me any trouble." He glanced at the washed-out teddy bear in Emilia's hands, his brow furrowed. "Don't leave your things lying around. Keep it tidy." Emilia quickly scooped the bear into her arms and whispered, "Got it." The next morning, Emilia, thinking of fulfilling her responsibilities, got up early to prepare breakfast. But the sight of the kitchen appliances, which rivaled those of a laboratory, completely panicked her. The fried eggs had turned to charcoal, and she had forgotten to monitor the heat while cooking oatmeal, leaving the bottom of the pot completely burnt. Even the range hood couldn't block the smell of burning. "What are you doing?" April was awakened by the smell of smoke. When she entered the kitchen, she saw Emilia, apron and dusty, standing at the stove, bewildered. Emilia blushed and hurriedly explained, "I was trying to make you breakfast, but I didn't expect." April's temples throbbed as he looked at the burnt pot. He was about to lose his temper, but seeing the apology and panic in Emilia's eyes, he swallowed the words back. "Don't touch it. Ask Martha to clean it up." With that, he turned and headed to the dining room. Not long after, he had Assistant Davis bring a new set of kitchen utensils. April's mischief wasn't over yet. One weekend, April asked her to help tidy up the study, but she accidentally spilled coffee on an important contract. She wanted to wash his suit, but she put his custom-made suit in the washing machine, and it came out wrinkled like a pickle. Every time Emilia bowed her head in apology, April frowned and said, "Don't touch my things next time," but then she would ask Martha to teach her about housework and even have Assistant Davis buy her a life skills guide. The day April had a stomachache was the day Emilia truly felt different. When he returned that evening, his face pale, he sat on the sofa, clutching his stomach, his forehead covered in sweat. "Emilia, remembering the pumpkin porridge her mother used to drink when she had a stomachache, hurried to the kitchen to make some. Although the porridge was a little thick and she'd forgotten to add salt, when she brought it to April, he froze for a moment, then took it and sipped it slowly. That night, Emilia waited outside his room for half the night, only to quietly return home after hearing no more movement. From then on, April's attitude toward her softened noticeably. He would allow Emilia to watch romantic comedies in the living room, even occasionally sitting down to watch with her. When Emilia came home late from evening study, he'd send the driver to pick her up. Once, when Emilia caught a cold, he personally handed her medicine, though his tone was still cold, saying, "Don't give it to me." At the end of the month, April took Emilia to a family picnic, saying she wanted her to get to know the family. On the lawn, April's cousin, Sophia, looked at Emilia with disdain. "What does Miss Carter's family do? Don't let people gossip about you being with our April." Emilia clutched her tablecloth tightly and was about to speak when April spoke first. "Sophia, the person I like has nothing to do with family background. Besides, Emilia is a college student, much better than those women who only compete for luxury goods." He placed a piece of Emilia's favorite grilled chicken breast on her plate. "Eat more, and don't worry about what others say." Emilia looked up at April. His profile was particularly beautiful in the sunlight, and the protective look in his eyes warmed her heart. In that moment, she suddenly felt that this cold CEO wasn't so scary after all. After the picnic, April walked Emilia home. The car was quiet. Emilia looked out the window at the night view and whispered, "Mr. Thorne, thank you for today." April stared straight ahead, his voice calm, "You're my girlfriend, I can't let you get bullied." But Emilia could clearly see the tips of his ears blush. Back at the villa, Emilia was about to get out of the car when April suddenly called her, "I'm going to New York on a business trip next week. Do you want to come with me?" Emilia was stunned. Bringing a contract girlfriend on a business trip didn't seem quite like April's style. She saw the anticipation in the man's eyes, and her heartbeat suddenly accelerated. Before she could reply, she heard April add, "Just think of it as a way to get used to each other. We might have more occasions together in the future." Emilia bit her lip and nodded, "Okay." Watching Emilia run up the stairs, April sat in the car, his fingers unconsciously tapping the steering wheel. He remembered the smile in Emilia's eyes just now, and the corners of his mouth couldn't help but curl up slightly. But just then, his phone rang. Seeing the name on the caller ID, his face instantly darkened. He answered, his tone icy, "Valerie, what do you want?" April's brow furrowed as he heard the words on the other end of the line. He didn't notice that, from behind the second-floor window, Emilia had seen him making the call and heard the coldness in his voice. She had no idea who was on the other end, but she felt a sudden sense of emptiness within her. Back at the villa, April hadn't returned yet. Emilia touched her belly, her heart aching with panic. She wanted to tell April, but then she realized their relationship was merely a contract, and that April's kindness to her might simply be fulfilling an obligation, and she hesitated. What if he didn't want the child? What if he thought she was using the child to bind him? Struggling with this, Emilia hid the test results in the back of a drawer, deciding to wait and find the right opportunity. But she didn't get that opportunity. Instead, she met Valerie. That day, Emilia went to Thorne Group to deliver documents. As she arrived in the lobby, she was stopped by a woman in an exquisite dress. The woman, wearing garish makeup, stared at him with hostility. "Are you Emilia Carter?" "Yes, may I ask who you are?" "I'm Valerie Hansen, the daughter of the Hansen Group, and a friend of April's." Valerie looked her up and down, her tone contemptuous. "Do you think April really likes you? He's just using you to get by with his family. When he gets tired of you, you'd better leave quickly to avoid embarrassing yourself." Emilia's heart tightened. Just as she was about to retort, Valerie pulled out her phone and played a recording. April's voice was cold and indifferent. "She's just a student. Give her some money and she'll be obedient. Once I'm done with my family affairs, I'll terminate her contract." The recording was short, but it stabbed Emilia like a knife, piercing her heart. She clenched the phone, her fingertips cold, so it was true. His kindness to her was all fake. Valerie observed her distraught state, a smug smile curling her lips. You'd better be smart and leave. April is not someone you can reach. With that, she turned and left, leaving Emilia standing alone in the hall, shivering. Emilia returned to the villa, devastated. As soon as she entered, she received a call from the hospital. The doctor said her mother's condition had suddenly worsened and she needed an immediate second surgery, which would cost an additional $20,000. $20,000 weighed like a mountain, suffocating Emilia. She looked at the test results in the drawer, recalled Valerie's words and the recording, and tears fell. She could no longer rely on April. She couldn't let her baby suffer with her. When April returned that night, she found Emilia sitting on the sofa, her eyes red and puffy, with a signed termination agreement and a bank card in front of her. What are you doing? April frowned, a bad feeling welling up in her. Emilia looked up and said in a hoarse voice, Mr. Thorne, let's end the contract. There's $500,000 on this card. It's the remaining compensation I'm using. I'm returning it to you. Thank you for taking care of us during this time. We'll have nothing to do with each other from now on. April was stunned. Seeing the despair in Emilia's eyes, his heart tightened. Why are you ending the contract so suddenly? Did someone tell you something? No. Emilia avoided his gaze, fighting back tears. I just feel that we were already in a contractual relationship, and now I don't want to continue. She didn't dare tell April about her pregnancy, nor did she dare mention Valerie or the recording. She was afraid of hearing anything more hurtful. April watched her resolute expression, feeling strangely irritated. Emilia Carter, do you know what you're talking about? The contract hasn't expired yet. You can't just end it like that. I know, but I really don't want to continue. Emilia stood up and picked up her suitcase. I've packed my things and am leaving tonight. Mr. Thorne, goodbye. With that, she turned and walked away, not daring to look back at April's expression. April watched her back, rage boiling, yet he didn't know how to hold her back. He wanted to hold on to her, but his pride prevented him from offering soft words. He could only watch helplessly as she walked out of the villa. Outside, the rain began to fall heavily. Emilia dragged her suitcase through the rain mixed with her tears, blurring her vision. She touched her belly and whispered, Baby, I'm sorry I didn't give you a good start. But I'll take good care of you. Let's live a good life from now on, okay? What she didn't know was that after she left, April, looking at the termination letter, felt his first wave of panic. He picked up his phone, wanting to call Emilia, but found she had blocked him. And in the drawer, the pregnancy test form Emilia had hidden lay quietly, waiting to be discovered. The rain intensified. April stood by the window, watching as Emilia's figure vanished into the drizzle. The cold glass reflected his tense profile. His fingers, gripping the curtains, turned pale. He felt a hollowness within him, as if something vital had been abruptly ripped away. This was the first time he had felt such a profound loss of control over someone, a feeling even more distraught than when Thorne Group faced a major crisis. He yanked his tie loose with anxiety and turned toward Emilia's room. The room still lingered with the faint scent of gardenias. On the desk lay her unfinished textbook, and on the bedside table sat her washed-out teddy bear. Everything remained as it had been when she was there, yet it felt suffocatingly empty. April's eyes swept across the drawer, and for some reason, he reached out and opened it. Inside, besides a few simple items of clothing, there was a white receipt tucked away at the bottom. He picked it up, puzzled. The words, Cedar Private Hospital, caught his eye, and the words, 6 weeks pregnant, struck him like a thunderbolt. He froze in place, the document in his hand feeling as heavy as 1,000 pounds. So she was pregnant. So she had left alone, carrying his child. April recalled Emilia's red, swollen eyes and her resolute tone before she left. her occasional lapses into distraction and dry heaving during this time. All those details he had overlooked suddenly connected. He could even imagine her panic and anticipation as she held the test results, and her heartbreak and despair after hearing the recording. Damn it! April pounded his fist against the wall, his knuckles instantly red and swollen. He hated his own slowness, hated that he hadn't noticed her abnormality sooner, and even more hated that he had let her endure so much alone. He pulled out his phone and, with trembling fingers, dialed Davis's number. His voice was filled with unprecedented urgency. Investigate immediately. Find Emilia Carter's whereabouts. Find which hospital her mother was transferred to, and everywhere she might have been. Even if we have to turn all of California upside down, we'll find her. Davis, having never heard April speak so ungraciously, immediately responded, "Yes, Mr. Thorne, I'll arrange it immediately." But the search proved more difficult than he had imagined. Emilia had vanished from the face of the earth. Her mother had long since been transferred from Cedar's private hospital, and there was no information about her new hospital. Her landlord said she had checked out long ago and hadn't left a new address. Even her best friend, Lena, only knew she'd gone to a quiet place and wouldn't reveal more. April didn't give up. He personally visited the restaurant where Emilia had worked, the university she attended, and even the Obsidian club where they'd first met. He stood on the streets they'd walked together, watching the people coming and going. For the first time, he felt a sense of strangeness in the city he had controlled for so many years. A turning point came a week later. Davis discovered that before Emilia left, she had called a small-town hospital in Oregon. Valerie's assistant had also called the same hospital around the same time, saying they were helping arrange a transfer. April understood everything instantly. He drove straight to Valerie's villa. When he opened the door, Valerie was leisurely sipping afternoon tea. Seeing April's gloomy expression, her smile froze. "You did it, didn't you?" April's voice was as cold as ice. "You forged the recording, you forced her to leave, you even arranged for her mother's transfer to another hospital, just so I couldn't find her." Valerie's face paled, but she tried to argue. "April, what are you talking about? I'm just worried she's tricked you." "Tricked me?" April sneered, throwing the pregnancy test results and the recovered call logs in front of her. "She's pregnant with my child, and you let her leave alone in the pouring rain with the child. Valerie, how dare you?" The evidence was irrefutable, and Valerie could no longer argue. She collapsed on the sofa. She hadn't expected Emilia to be pregnant, and even less had she expected April to be so enraged over this woman. "From today, all cooperation between Hansen Group and Thorne Group is terminated." April's voice was devoid of any warmth. "For everything you've done to Emilia, I will make you and Hansen Group pay double for it." With that, he turned and walked away, never once looking at Valerie again. After dealing with Valerie, April expanded his search to encompass the entire American West. He mobilized every resource, even hiring the finest private investigators. Time passed, and 2 years flew by. During these 2 years, he visited nearly every small town in the West, leaving most of the Thorne Group's affairs to his deputies. His sole obsession was to find Emilia and the unborn child. One day, April was visiting a small town in Oregon to inspect a project. Passing by a kindergarten, he stumbled upon a small figure, holding a woman's hand and slowly approaching with unsteady steps. The child, wearing a small, pale yellow jacket and clutching a half-eaten cookie, would occasionally look up and speak to those around her. Her soft, cuddly appearance was strikingly adorable. The woman holding the child wore a simple cotton dress, her hair tied in a ponytail, her profile as gentle as if bathed in sunlight. It was Emilia. April's heart raced. He practically stumbled forward, his voice trembling, "Emilia." At the familiar voice, Emilia froze, her steps halting. She slowly turned, and the moment she saw April, the tenderness in her eyes faded, leaving only wariness and panic. She instinctively tucked the child behind her to protect her, her fingertips tightly gripping the child's tiny hand. Her voice was as cold as ice. "Mr. Thorne, why are you here? I've been looking for you for 2 years." April looked at her, the bloodshot in her eyes clearly visible, filled with pain and longing. "Emilia, I know I was wrong. It was my fault back then. I failed to protect you and caused you so much injustice. Will you come back with me?" "No." Emilia shook her head without hesitation, her voice filled with unquestionable determination. "Mr. Thorne, our contract ended long ago, and we have nothing to do with each other now. Noah and I are doing well. Please don't disturb us." Noah, protected behind her, curiously poked his head out, tilting his little head to the side, looking at the stranger before him. He wasn't shy, just blinking his round eyes and asking softly, "Mom, who is this uncle?" He looks at Noah with a bit of sadness. April's heart ached at the child's soft voice. He slowly crouched down, speaking softly, afraid to startle the child. "Hello, little one. I'm an old friend of your mother's. Your name is Noah, right?" He didn't dare say too much, fearing it would startle the child, and even more so, repelling Emilia. Noah nodded, pointed his little finger at his chest, and said in a baby voice, "My name is Noah Carter." Mom said Noah means hope. He offered the cookie in his hand. "Uncle, are you unhappy? Eat a cookie, it's sweet and will make you happy." April's eyes warmed as he looked at the tooth-marked cookie the child handed him. He gently touched the child's hand, feeling the soft warmth from his fingertips, and a wave of guilt welled up in him. This was his child, and yet, at 2 years old, he had never even heard the word, "Dad." "Noah, time to go home," Emilia cut into their conversation, bending down to pick the kid up. April jumped to her feet and reached out to stop them, but she froze mid-movement, scared to touch Emilia. Her voice was thick with pleading, "Emilia, I know you're still mad. I can wait until you're ready to forgive me. But Noah's my kid, too. I can't miss him growing up. Let me stay with you, please. I'll take care of you, make up for everything." "No need," Emilia said, already lifting Noah into her arms. The little boy nestled against her, small arms looping around her neck. She fixed April with a steady stare. "Miss Thorne, what happened back then is done. Noah only needs me. I don't want your care, and please, don't show up in front of us again." With that, she turned and walked off, Noah in her arms, not pausing once. April stood there, watching their backs recede into the distance. Emilia's pace was swift, but the child in her arms kept looking back at him, a look of confusion on his face. His heart felt as if it had been ripped out. The pain was intense, but he didn't give up. He knew he owed it to them, mother and child, and no matter how difficult the road to his wife's return, he would keep going. He settled down in the small town, at the guest house across from Emilia's house. Every morning, he would watch Emilia carry Noah out the door, and once they were far away, he would quietly follow behind, helping them kick away the pebbles on the road to prevent the child from tripping. At noon, he would go to the flower shop where Emilia worked and buy a bouquet of her favorite sunflowers. He didn't dare deliver it himself, so he asked the owner to pass it to her, specifically asking her not to mention his name. At night, he would sit by the window of the guest house, watching the lights in Emilia's house come on, until he could hear the child's soft laughter through the window and the lights slowly dimmed. Only then would he dare to go back to his room to rest. Noah seemed to like this handsome uncle. Sometimes, on his way out in the mornings, he would deliberately slow down his pace, turn his head to look in the direction of the guest house, and if he saw April, he would secretly wave. Although Emilia didn't say it, she saw it all. Once, when Noah caught a cold and had a fever, she was terribly worried. It was April who secretly sent children's fever-reducing medicine and a cooling patch, along with a note, use according to the instructions. Feed him with plenty of warm water. The thoughtfulness between the lines stirred a complex ripple in her heart. That evening, Emilia returned home, carrying a sleeping Noah. As she reached the door, she saw a thermos on the floor. She hesitated for a moment, then bent down to pick it up and opened the lid. Inside was warm vegetable soup, with a few carrots and potatoes floating in the air. The aroma wafted from the mouth of the bucket, a scent she had always loved. A note sat at the bottom of the bucket, written in her familiar, firm handwriting. I asked Martha, and I know you like vegetable soup, so I made something light to nourish you and Noah. Drink it while it's hot, it's bad for your stomach if it's cold. April. Emilia's hand trembled slightly as she gripped the thermos. The warmth permeated the walls, warming her cold fingertips. She remembered how April had complained about her cooking, yet still drank up all her burnt porridge, how he told her not to worry even when he had a stomachache, clearly in agony, how he persisted in searching everywhere for her over the past 2 years, how he'd been so careful and gentle with Noah. Her heart felt like it was being gently nudged, a sour, yet slightly warming sensation. She leaned against the door, staring at the soup in the thermos, and whispered to herself, is it really time to let go of the past and give each other a chance? At that moment, April was standing on the balcony of the guest house, her eyes fixed on Emilia's window. He didn't know if Emilia would drink the soup, if she would read the note, or how long he would have to wait before he could truly enter their lives. But his hand on the railing was firm, as long as it meant he could have them back, he would be willing to wait any longer. Emilia finally brought the thermos back inside. She gently placed Noah in his crib, tucked him in with a thin blanket, and then opened the thermos. The rich aroma of soup instantly filled her mouth. The warm broth slid into her stomach, sending a wave of warmth through her body, just like April's careful movements over the past few days, quietly melting the ice in her heart. The next morning, Emilia's steps unconsciously slowed as she walked Noah to preschool. Sure enough, a familiar figure appeared at the doorway to the guest room, April, dressed in a simple light gray sweatshirt. Her usual cold, suit and tie look was gone, and her expression softened. His eyes lit up at the sight of her, but he didn't dare approach, following from a distance. Mom, it's our handsome uncle. Noah leaned on Emilia's shoulder, his little hand excitedly pointing ahead. Shall we go talk to our uncle? He still hasn't eaten his cookies from yesterday. Emilia's heart softened at the child's soft voice. She stopped and turned to look at April. The man was stunned for a moment, then hurried over, his hands hanging nervously at his sides, even his fingertips revealing his helplessness. Emilia, good morning. Good morning, uncle. Noah quickly held out the strawberry cookie in his hand, his face full of anticipation. This is for you. Mom baked it yesterday. It's better than the ones you buy at the supermarket. April took the cookie, her fingertips touching the child's soft hand, and her heart instantly filled with joy. He looked down at Noah and said in a whisper, "Thank you, Noah. Uncle loves it." Then he looked up at Emilia, his eyes filled with cautious anticipation. "I'm free this afternoon. Can you accompany Noah to the town park for a while? Just for an hour?" Emilia, looking into Noah's sparkling eyes, couldn't bring herself to refuse. Sure, but only until evening. That afternoon in the park became Noah's happiest time. April chased butterflies with him, bought him rainbow-colored marshmallows, and even clumsily learned to fly a kite. The string got tangled so many times that sweat broke out on his forehead with anxiety. But Noah, on the other hand, laughed heartily, his clear laughter echoing through the park. Emilia sat on a bench and watched. The golden light of the setting sun fell on father and son, warm and cozy, like a meticulously painted oil painting. On the way home, Noah, exhausted, fell asleep in April's arms. The man carefully supported the child's head, his steps light, afraid to wake him. When he reached Emilia's door, he paused. His voice was low and serious. "Emilia, the recording from back then was fake. Valerie edited my conversation with Davis, and she deliberately made you misunderstand that I was just using you. For the past 2 years, I've regretted not a single day. Regret not discovering the truth sooner, regret causing you and Noah so much suffering." Emilia's eyes welled up as she looked at Noah, sleeping soundly in his arms. She had actually heard it all before from the florist. April had searched nearly every town in the West looking for her, even waiting for 6 months near her former rental house. The unspoken guilt was more powerful than any flowery explanation. She nodded gently, "I know." On the day the misunderstanding was resolved, April did something that left Emilia both amused and annoyed. He bought the small-town flower shop where Emilia worked and hired 2 employees. "You won't have to work so hard anymore," he said, standing in front of the shop, his eyes serious. "If you want to open a flower shop, come find us. If you don't, just stay home with Noah and they'll take care of it." Emilia complained that he was wasting money, but she felt deeply moved. The day her mother came to town was the day she finally let down her guard. April had booked the best hotel in town, personally drove to the station to pick her up, and even learned to make her mother's favorite apple pie from Martha's videos. At the dinner table, he held his mother's hand and said solemnly, "Auntie, it was my fault before that Emilia suffered. I will spend my whole life taking care of her and Noah, and I will never let them suffer again." The mother saw the sincerity in his eyes, then glanced at her daughter, her beaming daughter beside her, and nodded gently, "April, I believe in you. Emilia is so lucky to have you." Receiving the approval of her elders, April was like a child who had been given candy, unable to hide the smile on her face. That night, he held Emilia's hand and walked slowly along the town's cobblestone streets. The streetlights cast long shadows on their faces, and the evening breeze carried the faint fragrance of flowers. "Emilia, will you marry me?" April suddenly stopped and pulled a velvet box from his pocket. The diamond ring inside gleamed softly. "It's not a contract, it's a lifelong commitment. I want to wake up every day and see you, to watch Noah grow up, and to live a life of ordinary life with you too." Emilia looked at his ears, red with nervousness. She remembered the past 2 years of his thousands of miles searching for her, his careful and gentle treatment of Noah, and countless warm moments. Tears fell, but she smiled and nodded, "Yes." April excitedly placed the ring on her finger and hugged her tightly, his strength rubbing her into his bones. Emilia leaned against his chest, listening to his strong heartbeat. Suddenly, she realized, it turns out the best love isn't about grandiose confessions, but about someone willing to prove their sincerity over time and heal all wounds with tenderness. The wedding was a heartwarming affair, held on the small town lawn. Noah, dressed in a tiny white suit, served as a flower boy. He took the microphone and said in a baby voice, "May Mom and Dad be together forever. Noah and Mom and Dad will be happy forever." The guests in the audience were amused. April hugged Emilia and whispered in her ear, "Thank you for giving me a family." The days after their marriage were as sweet as being immersed in a honeypot. April had completely changed. His former coldness was replaced by tenderness. He would get up early to make breakfast for Emilia, read Noah bedtime stories, laugh and cry with her while she watched romantic movies, and even learn to bake desserts from her, despite often making a mess in the kitchen. Once, Emilia watched April clumsily braiding Noah's hair and couldn't help but laugh. "President Thorne, you used to need Davis to fix even your tie." April looked up at her, his eyes full of fondness. "I never found anything I wanted to do before, but now it's different. With you guys, everything's fun." He paused, then reached out and gently touched Emilia's belly, his smile filled with anticipation. "By the way, there's some good news. Martha said we might be having another baby." Emilia was stunned, then instinctively lowered her head to touch her belly, then smiled. Sunlight streamed in through the window, bathing the family of 3 in warmth and brightness. Noah ran over, hugged April's legs, and excitedly exclaimed, "I'm going to be a big brother." April bent down to pick up Noah, then put her arm around Emilia's shoulders, her eyes filled with happiness. He finally understood that fulfillment wasn't about controlling wealth, but rather being surrounded by the people he loved, watching his children grow up healthily, and finding countless sweetness and warmth hidden in the ordinary days. Just like him and Emilia, their relationship began with an unexpected contract, weathered misunderstandings and separations, yet slowly blossomed into a true love over time. The pain they once endured paved the way for their present happiness. With two small hopes, they would journey together into a more fulfilling future, transforming every ordinary day into a sweet one.